Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are joining for the first time, my name is Avree, but you can call me ReeRee. Now today I will be telling you about how I survived growing up with a very wicked stepmother. Now before I get into it, disclaimer. Not every step parent is evil. Sometimes step parents can be a blessing. I would know because I have a very wonderful stepfather that I've had for the past, I would say, about 16 years. So shout out to all the step parents who love their children and take care of their children and their stepchildren as if it is their own. Now my situation was quite interesting because um, my stepmother at the time was actually my basic school teacher. So the very first time I went to school, she was there. And in the beginning, it seemed as if she really, really liked me because she used to take very good care of me. In fact, it would seem as if I would get special treatment. She was friends with my mother. She would invite both my parents to dinner at her home. And when my father was unable to pick me up from school, wasn't able to pick me up from school in time, she would actually take me home with her, and she would bathe me. She would um, allow me to sleep in her bed until he came to pick me up at night. Now, at that time, my mother, I believe, was going to Hearts, and I've mentioned on this channel before that my mother is a Mason, so she actually went to school for this. So, and my mother was quite young; she had me at 20. So, and there's a 15 age gap between my mother's age and my father's age. Sorry, 10. So when my mother was 20, he was 30. So naturally, he had 10 years of experience over her. And the teacher, who then later on became my stepmother, was about a year or two older. So both of those persons were way older than my mother. So unfortunately for her, she did not have experience nor wisdom on her side, which is very important to know. Now, one important thing I'd like to mention is that I don't understand, even to this day, how a teacher could start a relationship with a parent that is known to have the spouse, which is the mother of the same child that is attending school. How that did not set off alarms or raise any red flags, I do not know. But in my opinion, that would be quite scandalous because at that time, for me, when I lived with my parents for the first 3 years of my life, when they were together, they lived together. I believe as a child that was my happiest time. I still remember days when both of them would come pick me up from school. I still remember the vehicle my father drove. Sorry, he drove and his was a pickup, right? So those days for me are the best. I have never seen my parents live good. I won't say loving, but live good. After that, after those 3 years, they never really got along. And like I told you before, my father is deceased now as of almost a year. So for me personally, I think there should be some kind of stipulations that prevent teachers and parents from just dealing like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. This is just my experience. I might be bitter, for obvious reasons, but I don't feel like it should be allowed just like that. Maybe there should be some kind of, like I said, stipulations to make sure that it's nothing careless like what happened to me when I was younger. Now, as I mentioned before, initially in the beginning, she treated me well. I would get special treatment, all of that jazz. And once my mother separated from my father, her fangs started to come out. She was very miserable. She always spoke down to me, even as a child. She was always angry. And the reality is that I was naturally afraid of her, and I genuinely did not like her. Now, let me tell you this: children and animals, you cannot fool them. There's just something differently about animals and children. You cannot fool them. If you have a dog in your yard, and when that one particular person comes by your gate and the dog goes crazy, there's a chance something is wrong with that person. And if you have a young child in your home, and every time a particular person comes, that child either seems like he or she is afraid, or they get miserable, they get cranky, they cry a lot, you need to check that person. Like I said, you absolutely cannot fool animals and children. And for me, my father could not pick a worse spouse. And as the video progresses, you'll understand why. By the time my father started to be in a relationship with this woman officially, it seemed like I was in her way, as if I was the one preventing her from getting all of my father's time. And so it would seem like I was a nuisance to her, and that's exactly how I was treated. If she spoke to me, it was almost as if she was turned off by my presence. And mind you, this is in basic school. I'm not in prep school yet. Um, I remember one evening she pinched me so hard that my cheek got cut. And when my father came from wherever he was and saw it, all he did was ask what's wrong with her cheek, and she was like, I don't even know the response. And that was it. It was almost as if she controlled him fully. Like he could not disagree with her no matter what. Now, if you've watched this channel, I did a video about generational curses. Now, this lady would seem that she was bitter, and it would seem like she was hurting a lot because she like myself had a stepmother, and in my understanding, her mother abandoned her. So she never grew up with a mother's care and a mother's love. And I feel like she never healed from that trauma, and therefore she continued the cycle through me. Unfortunately, I was a victim. Interestingly, she had a daughter of her own, one single daughter. I don't know if she had any more children after that, but she had one daughter, and that daughter's father went overseas, and then it didn't seem like they had any much of a relationship, to be honest with you. And so my father was important to her because he was the only one that stayed. Now, one important rumor to note. I remember when I was in prep school and I was walking home, sorry, university, and I was walking home, and my prep school's grandmother, my prep school schoolmate's grandmother stopped me and asked me, what's going on? You and your father were always so close. Why is it that you're taking the bus and she's in the vehicle driving up and down every day? And I said, I don't know. And she said to me, be very loving towards your father no matter what, because that that same stepmother, which the lady was with her nephew, and she had requested a very large wedding, a very expensive wedding, and her family rejected that request. And ever since they separated, the gentleman, her nephew, went insane. Very important to know that. So we dealing with a dangerous lady here. So, like I told you before, she would invite my mother to dinner, invite her to the house, etc. All the while, knowing good and well, she was sleeping with my father. Straightforward. And like I said, once she got in with my father and my mother was out the picture, it was like hell, even for a child. Now, the first thing that set this lady off is that she was very jealous of the relationship between me and my father. Terrible thing. So, my father and I were very close because he and my mother separated while I was very young, like I said, 3 years old. And it could be cheating by both parties. It really has nothing to do with me. Just know he raised me. I was not raised by my mother. And I will tell you this, I believe he was the best father up until. I still have gifts that he purchased for me when I was quite young. He's the type of father that ensured that every Valentine's Day, every birthday, every Christmas, he would give me a gift. And I feel like it set the foundation for me as a woman, despite how many years ago, it set the foundation to have me understand how a woman should be treated. And that is very important. Fathers are very important in their daughter's life. And I don't believe any woman should be jealous of a father-daughter relationship, even if you didn't have one for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's not worth ruining that child's life. And so, despite what took place later on in my life, I am still very grateful that I had a father who was able to provide me with certain experiences and certain understanding. And like I said, he took very well care of me up until. No, I cannot blame his wife for him doing whatever, because I feel like every parent has a responsibility to understand and know where they stand in their child's life and where the child stand in their life, and no one should come in between that relationship. So I can't blame her fully, but I would definitely explain to you all the hardships and suffering I went through because of this woman. Now, One of the things that would also spark her jealousy is because my father used to bring me to school as well as give me lunch money. And her daughter, who was older at the time, excuse me, she had to take the bus. And she went, I was in prep school, and my prep school was reasonably close to where we lived. And meanwhile, her daughter was attending high school, and she would have to go all the way out. Now, mind you, my father works, so it really wouldn't be convenient for him to bring her daughter to school all the way in Kingston. Meanwhile, I am just literally around the corner. Plus, he's taking her, his wife, or his spouse to school nearby because I went to school fairly close to where she worked. So it was an easy drop off for the both of us. No, she did not see things that way, and she used to give him a hard time about it. And she used to also give me a hard time about it privately. And another thing why I know for a fact she was jealous is when one year my father forgot her birthday. Mind you, their birthdays are literally 2 days apart. And she was so angry, she was so upset, and she said to him, "You always remember Avree birthday. You can't remember mine." But in my head, me I'm child. It is laughable to me that a grown woman would actually try to compare herself to a grown man's young child. I feel like mentally she was not stable. Even at that age, when there was this huge argument and a huge blow up about it, I was questioning her mental state because it never made no sense, even as a child. Like, why you think a father would have forget him one healthy daughter birthday and him have her from Shaban? So, very, very questionable. Now, as a result of these things, she would be very spiteful. All right. So, when I had to go to school, right? Her school was walking distance. Mine was about 20-minute drive. She would literally tell him that she wants to leave out at the same time he's going out. So she would literally, spitefully do things to make me late for school, and he had to obey her. It was ridiculous. I don't understand why, at the time, I didn't understand why everything she said he had to listen. If she said jump, he have to say, oh, I'm not in a lie. And anybody who knows me and knows of the situation knows I tell no lies. In fact, I am being quite diplomatic about it. Right. So I'll be late for school quite often, and it was not good. No child should be late for school that often. But he lived with it, he didn't mind it. Like I said, it was whatever she wanted. I was on the back burner. In fact, every time they would have an argument and they would come close to breaking up, they would say, it's Avree's fault. Well, look at me. At that time, all I wanted to do was get older and leave. Honestly, that was my ambition in life at that time. No, the next thing that made her lose her mind is when I did GSAT. No, I think nowadays it's called PEPT, and before GSAT it was called Common Entrance. And back then, I think you had 3 chances to do the Common Entrance and then be placed in a school. Now, after your third chance, I think they just placed you in a junior high school or something to that event. Now, when I did my GSAT, I passed for Meadowbrook. When her daughter did common entrance 3 times, she did not get through, and they had to position her or something like that in a particular school. And so, throughout my GSAT time, she go on with herself. She behaved bad. The lady stressed me right out. She used to back off and me stress me out. I remember as a young child, she didn't allow me to wash my clothes in her washing machine. I had to wash my clothes with my hand. And I did not wash my underwear in time to her liking. And there was a friend who came over. It was a brother and a sister. The sister wasn't there, the brother was there. And right in front of me, she just came and said, you need to come and wash your panty them because all this, the seat them, I will leave it to the imagination. She was that type of person. So she would try very often to destroy my self-confidence. I remember I had acne as a child growing up. And she would say, you have one new face, you stay bad. Like, she would just criticize everything about my being. I was very skinny, and she would say, your little body look like peanuts. You not stay good. She was horrible. I used to endure that. I remember my father set up this thing where I would do it's a phone system back in the day, and you would get free calls, and she would literally listen in on the calls to my conversations, and then lie to my father and say me and Chatar big great woman. Tell me she alright no? Cause she not alright. No one can tell me she's okay. And she was a tyrant. She was a tyrant. Um, she would say things like, "Oh, she smell body, man." Like just like every waking moment of her, of living with her, was hell. Men don't know how I survive, you know. Only, but only by the grace of God, obviously. I remember things continued until I was about 14. And when I was 14, no, man licked me. Talk truth. 14, I was nothing more than a twig. Be honest still. 14, I remember when I was in the 7th grade, I weighed 90 pounds. Yeah. So 14, it couldn't be much more than that. 14 years old couldn't be more than that. 14, I was also in grade 9. Anyway, the lady slapped me. Right in my chest, yes, so. You know, I slap her back. I set my hand all the way back round, yes, so. Whoosh. Yeah, man. Nice 180-degree slap right back in her chest. You know, lady cry. Anyway, me and her start to throw down, and she roll with me. She grip me. I'm just collar her up in the sand, and she has weight, and I was small and short at the time. And me jump up on her, and my love. Anyway, she called police. Hear this. She took my right. I had my phone in my waist as a child. My little tights and a little blouse. She locked the veranda gates and locked the veranda door. So the gate that's on the outside, she locked it, and the door that comes in the house, she locked it. So I was trapped on the veranda. But she never knows that I and I have phone. So I had my little Siemens button phone. I'm call police, my love, and she reached a police station. Now this is where it gets interesting. So my mother, from all the way from wherever, and my stepfather came to my rescue, and my mother was very upset about it. And at that time, I just had enough of it because, yes, listen to me. I am of part Indian descent, and she would have cussed out my Indian section out of me. The local 25% Indian, I have, she cuss it out. Indian people are this, Indian people are that. Uno nasty, uno blah. Miss, who send you? You could take up Indian man. And you were my teacher, so you know he had a child. So what all of this for? So upon arriving to the police station, it was a big deal. Now, apparently, you cannot be a teacher because she was a teacher and abuse children, and or have a criminal record or have any kind of record of abuse because my aunt at the time was also a teacher, and so my mother was prompted to make a report. However, she did not. This is the reason why. It made no sense to her at the time, which I do understand now, to report her while I lived there because my father didn't go live her. He wasn't gonna leave her, and my mother was well aware. And the next part of it is that it was said that she dabbled in obia or witchcraft. And so my mother was very concerned and stressed at the time. And another thing is that she never raised me, and she never really had the means to raise me or send me to school. So it was tough all around. Now, this fight, mind you, is a rent house. And it's not but board part the house. You see, you had the landlord, you had her section. And the landlord and his wife used to hear the rumblings all the time. No, it was because of that reason why he gave me his storeroom to live in. And my father, at the time I mentioned before on this channel, was a contractor. And he fixed it up into a nice little bedroom. He added on a bathroom, eventually added on a bedroom, turned that front room to the living room and a kitchen. And the wife was not pleased. She would go crazy. And that's kind of how I got my own space at 14. No, at 14, the policewoman, I never forget, Officer King, a female officer, really wanted to arrest this lady. But like I said, she was known to be involved in things, and so the best solution at the time was to have me live separate and apart from her. No, living apart from her was like heaven. It really was. Um, over the other side, over the store, I wasn't allowed to watch TV. I remember when I was young, her daughter used to turn off the fan, and you know, them place the hot and full of mosquito. Mosquito bite me up, my sweat. Oh my God, it was torture. And I feel like her daughter and herself is the same. You know, birds of a feather cut from the same cloth. And it was really, really and truly, it was torture. Now, like I said, by the grace of God, the landlord granted me this space to live, and he and my father worked out a deal. I won't get into that deal. I mentioned the deal already on this channel. No, it made her furious because by then my grandmother, my Indian grandmother, gave me a TV, and I was so happy being away from her. No, I grew up, I got older, and she was very angry at the woman I became or was becoming because I wasn't a woman yet. I remember when I got permission from my father to cream my hair or chemically straighten it, she would find all sorts of problems. She would say, "Oh, I washed," because it was three different yards at the time. One house, three different homes. So my section, her section, the landlord. So we all had to share wash out the the wash basin around the back. And that is where I'd wash my clothes and wash my hair. And she would tell my father, if she wash her hair in a cold water, I could pick out like peel and junk. It was she might have known. Certified mad girl. I'm not take it back neither, cause she knows too. I remember when I just started to purchase furniture, it was a big issue. And by this time, she had fully poisoned. Well, I can't say that because no one should be able to poison your mind against your child. But I do believe she had some influence over my father as it regards to that. And she just never wanted us to have a relationship. And the reality is that we didn't. We didn't. Even up until my father passed, like I said, I didn't break a sweat because I was just over him and his wife shenanigans. Now, one very important thing to note in all of this, I said to you before and I say it again, whatever happens in the spiritual realm directly inspires the physical realm. So if you have a wicked person on earth, spiritually, they're also wicked. Now, the first time I had a dream regarding this lady, we were in my father's vehicle driving. He had an AD wagon at the time. I would say I was about 9 years old. And while driving in the car, now back in the day when I used to drive in the back seat, and obviously my father would drive, and he had a home up in the hills that he basically abandoned to parent with her and eventually lost that home. That's another story. Now, in the dream, there was a huge snake in the back seat, and because the area was rural, many times in real life you'd have like a one or two lizard that would get away in the car. And at first, I wasn't afraid of lizards, but then I saw other people being afraid, and I think I developed that fear. I'm no longer afraid of lizards, by the way. So in the dream, it was a huge snake, and I screamed out. So my father quickly parked the car, and tried to get the snake out. No, what happened is that instead of biting me, the snake bit him. Now, if I were to interpret that dream, I would say that if this woman really and truly works witchcraft, which I'm convinced, then it would mean that whatever she set out to harm me, my father got the blow. Now, if you're a Jamaican, you know what blow means. You understand me? Some people have turned back blow, all that kind of stuff. So he took it. So he was sacrificed instead of me. So that was a dream. And really and truly, after he married her, his life literally disappeared. His standard of living just went to the ground. Things weren't great. Mind you, he was never financially smart, as I mentioned before in this channel, but he just really destroyed himself while with her. It was horrible. It was horrible. Like I told you before in this channel, I had to go out and seek my own deliverance because nothing but God could save me from these things. I had other dreams where she would have lots and lots of large snakes in her house. Now, if you're any bit of spiritual or religious, you will know that when you dream about a snake, it means enemy. Anything that looks kind of like reptilian or scary, and it's always the same kind of dream. And I won't get into that right now, but essentially, That is what used to happen a lot. I used to dream about her a lot, and that's why I went to church and just fled as soon as I got old enough to leave. No, that's the reason why I told you before it was said that she works witchcraft. My grandmother used to warn me, and my mother used to warn me. Now, when we got into physical altercation and the police was called, I called the police and they were about to arrest her. I told them my mother did not arrest her, and this is because of these rumors. Because, like I said, she wasn't able to afford to take care of me, and she already knew my father was not going to leave her, and we all heard the rumors. In the community, it's not a secret. You understand me? So that was one of the things. That was one of the things that caused her not to pressure her, so to speak, and that's one of the reasons why I was so happy to live, even though it was just right next door to them. I was relieved that I did not have to share a household or a home with her. By the time I neared 18, thereabout, it would seem like my father developed the same sentiments towards me as his wife. Like I told you before, he drained the accounts that I was supposed to use to go to university. Um, he treated me very poorly. I won't get into all of that number. Just know it was horrible. A lot of things I don't even like to talk about. I remember when I was in sixth form, he literally threw out all my clothes. Um, it was just very difficult. It was horrible, and the relationship changed so drastically from when I was younger to when I was older. Everything that he set in place to make sure that I was okay, he destroyed it. That same deal that he made with the landlord, the deal was for me to live there up until 23, and he would develop the place, he would build the place, and then that would work out as rent, and I would start to pay rent by 23. By the time I was 18 or 19, he sold it. The landlord had passed and he sold it back to the wife and took the money and bought a car. So he sold the house while I was living in it. He drained the account, like I mentioned before. He used to come over and steal my money. You understand me? Every time I would buy new furniture, he'd want to throw out my new furniture or stop the furniture from coming in the house. If flow broke down, because by that time I was able to afford my own internet, if flow broke down and the internet people came, he would cuss bad word and go on very shameless because he didn't want me to have internet. So she had him wrapped right around her fingers. And I remember I told you the dream about the snake, and the snake bit him. So it looked like whatever poison or toxins went into him was the same toxin that was always existing in that woman. And when I tell you about generational curses, you have to be very mindful of who you date and who you let around your children and let into your children's life, because some men and some women are not just a woman and a man. They're walking demons with legions. You understand me? And they will ruin and destroy your child's life. No, the relationship got so cold to the point when my father died, even to this point, I felt nothing because I had to heal from all of the trauma. You think it's a normal trauma for no say time for go university? I am only done. It's not easy. But like I said, forgiveness is of utmost importance, and you have to relieve yourself of the burden. You can't just carry it around with you. I definitely do not want to become like that woman. Don't want to become like my father. And the only way to not do that is to forgive and understand, heal, put God first, pray for them, and move on. So naturally, you could see where a generational curse was almost perpetuated. Because, like I told you, she had a stepmother and her mother abandoned her. Now, while I will not say my mother abandoned me, my mother was a young mother, right? And she was not able to afford to take care of me. And so she gave me to my father. I wouldn't call it abandon because I spent many holidays and weekends with my mother and my grandmother, my grandfather, my cousins on my mother's side, etc. So I wouldn't say that it was abandoned. But her mother definitely abandoned her. She grew up with a stepmother. In fact, we visited her stepmother and her father. I recall visiting them out in the country at least two times as a child. So they had some kind of relationship because God knows me, Nina go look for she ever. So I would say that they had some kind of relationship. But I feel like hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. And I feel like she definitely needs to clean up herself. Don't know about her now. The last time I saw her was at my father's funeral, and she actually hugged me. I allow her still because I already know what it is, and I've already moved on. But I would not walk the walk with her at all. And also looking back at it, I could never, for love nor money, treat anybody, especially a child, not even remotely how they treated me. I can't do it. Even though I don't treat like children are so cute. Even when they're miserable, to me, them cute. Children are a blessing. They are so innocent. They are so pure. They are so funny. And they are so smart. Sometimes I think them smarter than me, to be honest with you. Children are a blessing. I could never pinch a child's cheek till it get cut, sink my nails into a child's cheek. I could never be upset if, let's say, I took somebody up with a child. I could never be upset that they forgot my birthday but remembers their child's birthday. There's so many things wrong with that, and there was no one there to save me. You understand me? I had to save myself, which, if you are aware, I have a channel. I have a video on this channel called, by the title, "How Independence Can Change a Woman's Life for the Best." It is true, because if I wasn't strong, if I wasn't independent, I would be a victim of my circumstances, and I don't want that. One of the worst things in life is to be a victim or a product of your environment. And I told myself that would not happen to me. And I'm very grateful to God that I'm able to even speak about it without feeling any kind of bitterness. And I'm glad we have no similarities. You understand me? Like I said, I went to church. The church told me, leave them. Just leave them be. The final note I want to leave with everyone watching this video is this. If you are dealing with a spouse, man or woman, it don't matter. Long distance, far distance, close distance, it don't matter. If you are dealing with somebody and that person has a child or children and you don't like the child, leave the people and parents. Leave the man, leave the woman. I don't care if the man is rich. I don't care if the woman is rich. Don't care if them have car or have house. I don't care. If you don't like the people's child or children, do not deal with them. Save yourself a generational curse. Save yourself some lifetime karma and save that child's life and walk away. People, if you are dealing with somebody and you pick up or you sense even the slimmest whiff that they don't like your child, leave that person. Because in the latter part of it, of me and my father's relationship, it reached a point where he knew what he did. He knew that I knew what he did. And so, and he was a strange fella, you know. I used to chat him from them behind them back too. And he made a hypocrite. But anyway, he knew that he can't be upset as why I stayed away because he's the reason. Mind you, the family itself was toxic, and they all knew what was going on. You understand me? And so the pain I feel like he endured when I was away is second to none. But he lost the right to complain to me or anybody else. If he want to complain to somebody else and them listen, I feel in business that, but him can't complain to me because I had no one to complain to. You understand me? I had to just figure it out, and that's how I did. So if you want that type of relationship between you and your child, if you want to make man or woman come in between you and your child, I feel business that day. But let me tell you this, long run short catch. You will treat your child bad for the sake of a man and feel like it's something good, but it is when they get older and they turn out to be somebody and they neglect you, they're not neglecting you. They're protecting their space and they're protecting their energy. You understand me? So you need to be careful. Understand me? If you have any bit of value for your child, if you feel like you put the man in front of your child or you put the female in front of your child, send your child to go live with one auntie over one part or one granny or one somebody who one pitney for love. Don't raise them because you don't know what's happening behind closed doors. That lady wouldn't allow me to watch TV. You know what she used to do? I can't talk now, come and get me. Let me tell you what she used to do. She used to plug out our TV wire. She used to plug out our TV wire and bring it to work or hide it. You know what I did? My father bought me a radio, which happened to use the same wire as her TV wire. And I would burn up the TV at the time. On month end, she would say, "Oh, the light bill, so I. Girl, watch TV. Girl, watch Nickelodeon. Girl, watch Disney. Girl, watch Showtime." And when once I heard the taxi out the gate, I would just plug it out. And you know what she used to do? She used to feel the TV and ask, "You watch TV?" I'm like, "No," with that straight face. So, it was wild. It was really, really wild. I'm telling you, it was wild. I know something. Years after, when I moved to the other side, my grandmother, like I mentioned before, gave me a TV. Fair piece of old TV mashup. I was going to university. And one day I came in and heard a very loud, clear TV playing. I said, "Oh, she buy a flat screen." Yes, but pull my door and when I'm a house child, me not see my TV at the spot alone, must see. Lady over there watch my TV comfortable with good conscience. You know what happened? She had to lock the padlock on the grill because best believe her heart was going for it. And if me and her catch up this time, it's not gonna be the last time when I was 14, my love, a different catch up. I'm telling you. And these are the things when I look back at it, all of this could have been prevented. If we had a firm adult parent say to somebody, "Don't treat my child like that." Or somebody who just walk away. So don't deal with parents if you don't want to be a step parent. If you don't love that parent's child, don't do it. Walk away. Walk away. If you're not ready for it, if you have unhealed trauma, don't do it. And that is where I will leave you for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell and leave your comments below.